Hello everyone, I'm Muskies and welcome back to my channel. I'm finally done with the first Witcher book, The Last Wish, written by Andrzej Sapkowski, and I have to say that it definitely surprised me in many ways. If I think about what my expectations were prior to starting the book, and I look at what I think about it now that I'm done with it, it's kind of insane really. Now make sure to stick around until the end where I'm going to be sharing my note out of 10 for the book, and before we go any further, I want to quickly mention that I simply don't read books. I've tried many times in the past when I was younger, and I just never really got hooked with any book enough to actually finish it, or at least a sizable book. So as Geralt would say,
fascinating story. Any chance you're nearing the end?
And I'd always get bored and end up spending money for pretty much nothing. So if you are looking for a review made by a book specialist who knows what he is talking about, this video is probably not for you. No, all I am is a big fan of the Witcher games who wanted to expand his knowledge of the universe and experience more stories with the character of Geralt and other characters from The Witcher, so that's who this video is probably aimed towards a little bit more. This book, The Last Wish, is made of 7 short stories, and as I was progressing through the book, I remember thinking, it just can't keep going like this. There's no way. It's like nothing I read before. It's amazing. I think the format worked really well to introduce us to the world of The Witcher. We get to learn more about Geralt and the rest of the world slowly but surely with every story. It's not overwhelming. Well, I guess we'll talk about that a little bit more later. But for now, let's focus a little bit more on the actual story. Let's begin with the first short story, the one about the Striga. The details of the situation are revealed to Geralt by the Castellan Velrad, and the Witcher is later left with 3 options. He can either kill the Striga, try to remove the curse in Sevada, which is what King Foltest would want and the option that would pay the Witcher the most, or let the Striga live and kill innocents as requested by Ostrit. You see, Ostrit was ready to pay the Witcher to do nothing and leave, simply to gain a political advantage. King Foltest was fully aware of the beast's actions, but it was also his daughter. Having a king who lets a monster murder civilians could prove helpful for Foltest's rivals. A decent argument to try to overthrow him. I'm sure you already know Geralt would never pick the last option, which would result in death and chaos, so the Witcher instead used Ostrit as bait to lure out the Striga, which is pretty funny and deserved, if you ask me. In the next story, A Grain of Truth, it tells the story of Nivellen, a man that was part of a gang and ended up raping a young priestess at a temple. Sure, he felt pressured by the gang to do so, but it's no excuse and it's just awful. The young woman then cursed the man before killing herself. Yeah. Pretty dark story. Shortly after, Nivellen turned into a beast. Nivellen remained silently in his house for years until one day he saw a man trying to steal roses from his aunt's garden. When Nivellen learned the man had a daughter, he decided to make a deal. The man would need to give his daughter to Nivellen if he wanted to leave alive. Pretty straightforward deal, huh? Nivellen remembered old fairy tales of princesses turning frogs into princes with love, so he saw that as an opportunity to maybe try to break his curse. Unfortunately for him, he learned the daughter was too young, only 8 years old. Regardless, the cursed man felt bad for the father, so he invited him inside and gave him gold and precious stones before he left. Not even 2 weeks later, the scenario repeated itself. Word of the events spread quickly, and another man made his way to Nivellen's manor, ready to trade his daughter for a fortune, and he got what he wanted. In only 2 chapters, we had Ostrit clearly not caring about innocents dying, Nivellen raping the girl, and then the merchants selling their daughters for money. It really made it clear pretty quickly just how bad some people can be and how far they are ready to go for personal gains. Anyways, moving on, we have The Lesser Evil, the story that gave Geralt the nickname of Butcher of Blaviken. We are introduced to Renfri, a girl that simply cannot let Stregobor live and is also rumored to have the Curse of the Black Sun, just like Syanna in The Witcher 3. The Witcher did not want to choose an evil. His 2 options are to kill Renfri to save Stregobor or let Renfri kill Stregobor. He tried desperately to not get involved and to have it all end in peace and not be forced into making a decision, which could be a possibility if the Witcher had managed to convince Renfri to leave the town and forget about all of this, but she wouldn't listen. Geralt finally had to kill Renfri and her entire gang, leaving the town in shock and clearly choosing what he thought was the lesser evil. This chapter is all about an important aspect of the character of Geralt. No matter how hard he tries and he wants to remain neutral, at times picking a side is necessary, whether he wants it or not. We then make our way to Sintra for a party that has a simple goal: find a husband for Pavetta. It's a story that shows the power of destiny and the law of surprise, as well as introduce us to the powers of Elder Blood and Pavetta. It ultimately leads to Ciri being owed to Geralt as a child of surprise. After being saved and helped by the Witcher, Duny wanted to give Geralt a reward and asked him what he wanted. Geralt almost jokingly asked for the law of surprise. Moments later, it was revealed that Pavetta was actually pregnant. It's also important to note that obviously Ciri is not present in the first book, so I'm very excited right now for her introduction, hopefully in the next book or two. Now for this next story, we have the Sylvan and the whole introduction to the elves and their situation, and I really want to talk about Netflix here for a second. The Sylvan was such an iconic monster, for me at least in this book, and I simply don't understand why they changed the story so much. It serves a critical purpose, showing that not every monster deserves to die, that Geralt, while a monster slayer, will not simply slaughter any monster at first sight. It can even go further than that. Apparently the Witcher Code literally forbids the killing of Sylvans completely. And you might be wondering why I'm saying all of that, because yes, Netflix respected that. The Witcher did not try to kill the Sylvan, but in my opinion, they definitely failed to show the complexity here or the real depth of their meeting. It all happened very quickly on Netflix and went from fighting to I won't kill you to we never see the Sylvan again. In the books, it's much more complex, and towards the end of the story, Geralt, Dandelion, and the Sylvan all left the elves together. They even sat around the fire and talked almost like friends, and I enjoyed that. I thought it was a shame that Netflix did not want to include any of this. I also had many other frustrations with Netflix while reading this book, but hey, that might be its own video in the future. For now, back to the stories, and the next one is all about Yennefer and magic. It was pretty funny to see Yen and Geralt like that. I'm so used to them knowing each other very well and just messing around all the time pretty much in The Witcher 3.
You smell wonderful.
Geralt, we're at a funeral.
You smell wonderful at this funeral.
But yeah, I really enjoyed seeing the beginning of their relationship. It was pretty clear that Yennefer was a little bit arrogant and selfish. She seemed to be pretty focused on making sure that she would be the winner in every scenario, which I guess is understandable because they didn't know each other and stuff, but overall, I thought it was another solid story, a bunch of cool moments, like when we realize Geralt has the wishes and he kills the guard, or when he makes the third and final wish. And overall, it was just a chapter that was exploring the magic of the world a lot more, and I really enjoyed it. Learning more from a monster, the Djinn, that is also present in The Witcher 3 was also very interesting. Basically, what I've been trying to show here with this is that every single chapter is key to setting up the world and does so in a very gradual and well-calculated way. Like I said, it's not overwhelming, and for something as complex as the world of The Witcher, it's something that was probably hard to accomplish. Literally, the only complaint I have for the entire book is that there are maybe two stories, I think it was The Last Wish and A Question of Price, which is the one with Pavetta, where I felt like a bunch of characters were introduced maybe a little bit too quickly and with not enough description. I had a bit of trouble remembering who was who, but it never really mattered as it was mostly secondary characters and it didn't take away any of the enjoyment of the stories for me. I went in with the expectation that after 50 pages or so, I'd probably be bored, not because the book would be bad, but because usually books are simply just not for me, but I was wrong. It was a very pleasant experience, and now I cannot wait to jump into a Sword of Destiny, which apparently is even better, which I'm super excited for. Now I guess it's time to give the book a note out of 10, and I'm just going to give it a 9. It just surpassed all my expectations, and it definitely succeeded in piquing my curiosity and making me interested in the next books, which is probably what you want with your first book, right? So I think it succeeded at that. Now the only question I have, I guess, is will the quality level remain similar and as high for the next books? And based on what I've seen online, it looks like it will, so I'm just super excited. Thank you so much for making it to the end, and please tell me in the comment section if you want me to make another review once I'm done with the second book. Also, if you enjoyed, please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you all soon in a new video. Bye bye.